nobody wants to admit that. Obama can't admit that because he's the president. He has to appease everybody. So I'm not expecting him to admit it. But at the same time, there's a cause and effect. You put, you do say that the murder rate amongst black on black crimes is high. Well, when all crimes is pretty much a proximity issue, I mean, look at the Netflix special, Making a Murder. That wasn't black people. That was a white guy. And according to that case, it was a proximity thing. So everything's about proximity. Minorities are minorities. We're not the majority. So therefore, there's more white on white crimes. But that's never going to get reported because the media likes to feed on negative shit. They want to put this stuff out here, make us paint a bad picture. It's just so freaking, it just so pisses me off. And everybody runs with it. Nobody does their research. Nobody checks the facts. Everybody runs with the hotline because nobody cares about the truth if the hashtag or the line is hot. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the truth. Everybody just want to run with the title. So where do we go from here? I'm seeing all these town hall meetings. I'm seeing, the cops are hurting. Blue Lives Matter. First of all, how does Blue Lives Matter? There's no color as blue. There's no, human beings blue. So we need to stop that little hashtag. You guys are piggybacking off the Black Lives Matter, and then when I see the All Lives Matter, that's the same thing. You guys are piggybacking off of, agenda. You guys are not losing loved ones out in these streets. You guys are not being harassed, pulled over, and discriminated the way majority of blacks are. So I applaud when I see like a Stephen A. Smith admit that, yeah, he's been pulled over many times. Don Lemon from CNN admit that he's been pulled over many times. Queen Latifah at the Hip Hop Honors just the other day talking about how she gets pulled over and how hard it is for a black woman, a successful black woman like herself, to get a cab in New York. That's why I don't even feel bad for the cab industry. That's why I'm glad Uber and Lyft and these guys are kicking their ass. And I'm going to use my smartphone and call me a cab. I don't feel bad for these guys because there's always been this stigmatization that black is bad. We go back to black magic, white magic, all these things. There's always been the stigmatization that black is bad and white is good. And that shit needs to stop. We need to come together as a country. We need to stop minding other people's business. And we need to address the problems at home. Look at the Holocaust survivors. America's still paying for the Holocaust. Had nothing to do with it. That was Hitler. But America is paying for that. But they can't sit back and look back at what's going on in this country at home and deal with the issues at hand. That's all bull, man. That's all bull. Why? Because they wanna keep us. The system wanna keep us at each other's throats, and nobody wants to see that. We are living in the Matrix, folks. Go back and look at that movie, man. That movie is true. Look, matter of fact, if you don't believe me, watch The Matrix. Binge watch Mr. Robot, the best television show on the worst network in the history of television. Like that's such a great show, but it's on such a bad network as the USA Network. That's a great show. You should definitely check it out, Mr. Robot. I 99% agree with everything that show pretty much is about conspiracy theory, about the media manipulation. If you guys like to read, I have a book that I've read 3 times. And it's a great book. The author is Ryan Holiday. It's called Trust Me, I'm Lying. It's about media manipulation and how the powers that be want to, control the narrative of what you see and what you do. It's a great book. You should definitely check it out. What do we mean by media manipulation? I'm going to give you guys a simple example. Look at what happened in Baton Rouge when that poor young man was shot 4 times in the chest and in the back while he's lying on the floor by those officers. And the next day, his bloody body is on the front page of a major newspaper all across this country. I have yet to see one picture of any of those officers laying on the ground. Why? Because the media will never show that shit. They will never show that shit. They would rather spread us out there looking like cattle, looking like animals, because they don't care. So when we say Black Lives Matter, we're talking about injustice like that. Like, don't have this guy's history dragged out, this and that, so people can, debate it and talk about it. There's nothing worse that I hate. Nothing worse more than a closet racist. Be upfront about your business. If you don't like something, be upfront about it. That's why I fucks with Twitter. I can see all the racists and all the shit out there in the open, and if I feel to engage, I can engage it. That's why I fucking respect social media. People try to downplay social media. No, I love it. Facebook Live. It's so cute. You can put what you're doing live. I bet you in a million freaking years, Zuckerberg and his people did not expect to see that shit what that young lady did. I commend her. I applaud her. Everybody's coming down on her like, how could she be so calm when that's going on? That's because she's a black woman. You have to be calm in America. Because isn't that the narrative that the media put out there? If you're not calm, you're up to something. If you're itching, you're aggravating the situation. Come on, man. You can't have it both ways. You can't be criticizing her for being calm, for just putting something out there on Facebook Live so everybody can see. That was fucking brilliant. That was freaking brilliant. Because if she didn't do that, the narrative would have been like, dude was reaching for something. Hell, she could have got it too. Like, why would an officer shoot at the guy was clearly in the car. And he still had a seatbelt on, dude. He had a seatbelt on. You're still shooting in the car with a child in the back. But that gets lost in all of the sauce. Because the narrative is why she's on Facebook Live showing what happened. Because that's what the media manipulation is all about. I'm just so angry, man. I expected better from this country, My pops has been dead for going on 20 years. And as a young boy, he always told me these things like, you got to watch your background. These guys, the system, this country ain't for you. This ain't for you. Da, 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 da. But I questioned back then, like, so if this ain't for me, then why did you move to this country? Like, why didn't you just stay in the Caribbean? Because his answer was always because, even though this country is fucked up, it's still the land of opportunity. And you kind of see that because, now they're coming down to athletes. Like, why LeBron and them being so vocal? Why can't they just stick to basketball? Why has to be like that? African Americans are the first time ever in a position to make so much money that is generational wealth. What is generational wealth? Generational wealth is real estate. Well, it was real estate back in the days to, the Caucasians because you guys had such a head start. But now African Americans are out here. We have Oprah, who's a billionaire. We had Mr. Johnson, who's a billionaire, who sold BET, which was an awful move. He sold BET, but he's still a billionaire. We have very little billionaires, but now we're in a situation where these athletes are making generational wealth, where their kids are going to be taken care of. Why not let them be a voice? Why not let them be the soldiers? I hate the term transcend sports as if what they're doing is not enough. Like, I just hate that term. Like, they talk about Muhammad Ali. He transcends sports. Bullshit. You guys hated him for what he stood for back in the days. He's absolutely right. Why do I need to go fight a war if I have no problem with those people? Why do I got to go invade the country on your behalf? Why do I got to fight your war and then you come back and treat me like shit? You can imagine how the world would have been if social media was around back then in Muhammad Ali days. It's a funny thing. And, talking about Muhammad Ali, I had a debate the other day about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. And I was always a big Malcolm X fan. I wasn't a fan of Martin Luther King. I thought a lot of things he stood for was unattainable and unrealistic. And I'm going to put you guys onto a quick debate I had about comics. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, I was a huge Spider-Man, X-Men. I was a Batman fan, but I really wasn't heavy into Batman like that. I really wasn't heavy into DC because I thought it was kind of, whitewash. I thought it was kind of, it was too squeaky clean. Come along the X-Men. I could relate to the X-Men because the X-Men were pretty much mutants. And it was the whole thing was about the civil rights movement. And nobody peeped that. Professor X was Malcolm X. Professor X was Martin Luther King. Magneto was Malcolm X. And it goes back to that. Like, if you really look at that, those comics, and you really see what they were fighting for. Martin Luther King wanted peace. He wanted everybody to live long, come along, kumbaya, all that good stuff. At the time, it was just unattainable. So in the comics, you know how many times Professor X got killed in the comics? Unreal. Magneto was on some, he wasn't trying to take over the world. He was on some, leave me alone. You touch me, I'm going to fucking kill you. Just like Malcolm X, Malcolm X always preached, be cool with others, be casual with others, but as soon as someone puts their hands on you, you have every right to kick their ass and kill them. I totally oblige by that. Just my opinion. It is what it is. So again, so now you even see that we even see in the comics with the X-Men, like they're being because Marvel should have banked before Marvel is Marvel. Before Marvel is what it is now with the movies and everything and the MCU universe, they should have banked on X-Men, but they didn't feel it was big enough to stand on its own, which was total bullshit. It would have it would have done great, Captain America, Iron Man. These guys were good characters. The Avengers, they were good, but they weren't X-Men. X-Men was the moneymaker. They sold that to Fox, and with that, that's when they came out with the whole, we're gonna build the Iron Man, the Captain America brand back up and become, great content. So it worked out for them in that right, but they really should have stuck it out with the X-Men. But very good, again, for a lot of folks who didn't know that, the X-Men pretty much is a reflection of the civil rights movement to the T. So again, where do we go from here? Can this country heal? I saw a lot of town hall meeting. I saw people take shots at Obama. But the one thing I would say that I really enjoyed out of the town hall meeting was the police chief of Minnesota. I'm sorry, not Minnesota, Milwaukee. The police chief of Milwaukee. He asked Obama, it's like, hey, help us help you. Help us help you police your communities. Help us with the gun reform. How many people in the street have to die before America takes action in gun reform? Mental health. Most of these people that are causing and killing are mentally disturbed. Why they're mentally disturbed? It could be a lot of things. There's no jobs out here in this country. There's no, first time offense. Once you get locked up for any little thing, there's a red flag on you, so you're not going to get a job. There's not enough programs. There's no after school programs. Look at Chicago. The reason Chicago's the way it is because everything that for Chicago pretty much stays downtown in South Chicago. We see the towers, we see all the great buildings and establishments, but that's it. But in the hood, forget about it. It's all dried out. There's no after-school program. There's no job. There's no community development. There's none of that. If they would have fixed that up, crime would go down. Crime goes down, then what? We won't have no problem. But there's no money in that. America's a capitalist society. There's no money in that. So, it's a lot of things that that needs to happen before change can really come. But we got to take ownership, man. We can't be out here preaching ignorance all the time. How is anything going to get better? America is so divided. These two candidates are the absolute worst. I don't know how is it going to get better, but I'm praying it does, but I don't see how. Again, I'm ashamed to be an American right now. I'm ashamed. If I was an athlete, I probably wouldn't even. There's more than enough reason not to go to Rio, but if I was an athlete, I wouldn't want to go to Rio. I wouldn't want to participate in the Olympics because America's so divided. They look how people are lashing out at Durant. Look how people lash out at LeBron, as if hey, they're not doing what's best for them. It's all good for them. It's all good when they're doing something for you. But the second you do something for yourself, oh, forget about it. You're a villain. You're a freaking villain. If only the real world worked like that. If only the real world looked like that. If these guys weren't being harassed and pulled over every chance, why there has to be a set of rules for black people that compared to white people? Why do I have to see these manuals now? Everybody posted up videos about how to conduct yourself as a black man when dealing with the police. Excuse me, that's the most ignorant bullshit shit I've seen ever. Why do I have to see that? Everybody knows how to conduct themselves with the police. You act cordial. You be respectful. You give respect. You give the officer respect. Everybody knows that. But no one's pointing the other narrative. What if the officer is being disrespectful and respectful? What is the antagonizing the situation? Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about that. Why is it always got to be, hey, you know, you got to behave yourself when dealing with an officer. Hey, you know, be respectful.